Jonathan and Susie Lamb, who were vice presidents at one point, assert that while they were Daystar students, spiritually abusive and harassed them on multiple occasions by Jonathan's mother, former President Joanie Lamb, and her associates. Joni allegedly shocked the couple by setting up a meeting with Exam marriage creator Jimmy Evans on July 11, 2023. On camera, Evans informed Jonathan and Susie that they had to denounce Roy to their mother because Janie had told her son that his wife had him by the balls, which led him to believe that God wanted him to speak for himself. Jonathan prayed to hear the voice of God. The voice of God was heard by Evan, and he answered. So I have to hear from her. I cannot hear from God outside there. Jonathan continued to inquire. He responds. What she says is, God and Dare, this is the voice of God and Daystars previously documented. Jonathan convened a contentious meeting 2 years after learning of a family member's sexual involvement with his daughter, in which he accused the person of abusing the youngster. Jonathan and Susie assert that their family member was swiftly defended and declared innocent by Joni and her late husband, Daystar co-founder Marcus Lamb. The outcome was a severe schism inside the family. It wasn't until late August 2021 that Marcus finally broke the news to Jonathan and his brother-in-law, Jonathan J.D. Weiss, that the family member had been cleared internally. After Jonathan and Susie found out the study was faulty, Marcus died suddenly in November 2021 of complications associated to COVID-19. The sex therapist and frequent daytime TV guest Doug Weiss was Joni's husband as of June 10, 2023. Jay Weiss is unknown to Doug. Doug and his 30-year wife filed for a divorce on January 27, 2022, only 2 months after Marcus passed away. Jonathan and Susie assert that their meeting with Evans in July 2023 was an attempt to coerce them into publicly supporting Joan's second marriage. Joni was accused of adultery by marrying Weiss, according to Jonathan and Susie, and none of her children or their spouses approved of the union. They all believed that Weiss had biblical grounds to divorce his wife. Denise Boggs, a lifelong friend of Daystar's, sought intervention from Joan's family in a moving letter she wrote 2 months prior to the wedding. Boggs had advised Doug and Lisa Weiss before they were married, and he was also well known to T. Split Across Bongs insisted that Joni was the one who listened to her worries about Weiss, but that she would now ignore me. According to the Bong, Joni was led astray by Weiss because he is a wolf masquerading as a sheep. She claimed Joni was against divorce until the enemy deceived her on the Daystar platform, and Bongs claimed he lacks the qualifications for the job. One of the most popular Christian television networks in the country has deftly promoted the marital connection. Jonathan stated that he gathered his family to talk about Joni 2 days after getting the letter. Nevertheless, Joni only gave everyone 60 seconds to say what they were feeling. She hurriedly made her comment, "All I see from us is fear," before rushing out the door to catch Doug's journey to New York. Jonathan made a comment following Doug and Joni's marriage. Jonathan and Susie were asked to read a viewer's comment praising Joan's recent marriage to Toei on July 5, 2023, even though they were still unhappy with the marriage. Their belief that doing so would imply sponsorship of the marriage led them to decline, much to Joni's ire. According to Joni's 2017 book, Broken Trust Consultant and pastoral coach for Broken Trust, this led to a meeting with Evans, who, according to Joni, connected God's and Satan's desires. Spiritual abuse, according to Remy Deesh, occurs when someone exploits their supposed connection with God or God himself to control others for their own gain. If God come to you right now and told you you made a mistake, would you fix it? Jonathan Evans asked. Additionally, he and Susie accurately stated that Evans and Joni were engaged in such activity on the meeting recording. Undoubtedly, without a doubt, obviously. Even though you're not, Jonathan does reply. God did not manifest or make himself heard, according to Evans. Jonathan reassures Joey, God spoke to you via me. In response, Joey says, he spoke to you through Jimmy, the ministry expertise that Joni and Evans possess. Let them exert even more control over Jonathan and Susie. Experience won't matter to you as much as authority, Jonathan. Evans says, was the Spirit heard? I work with couples since I was a pastor for 41 years. I don't believe so, Joni says in response. You have about as much experience as a thumb when compared to everyone else here at the meeting. Before Joni's absence, Jonathan inquired with her manager, Evans, about her responsibilities. Then Evans shot back, I'm on the board Jonathan holds the position of. Jonathan, Joni, A lawyer and Tom Callender, a long-term acquaintance, were the sole board members at the time. Yeah, but individually, you're not her accountability. Individually, you're her employee, TR replied to Jonathan. Evans asserts that she is speaking for God and Daystar and that no one else is responsible for her actions. When Jonathan complains, Evans counters by saying that God established all authority in Romans 13. Again, Jonathan disagrees, saying that you need not be worried about her Daystar activities, even though they are trying to find someone to answer for them. Please listen to her counsel if you must be absent. Evans says, stay away from this place. Tell them what the Lord told you about stubbornness and what it leads to. Joni adds, according to what the Lord told Saul, rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, as Evans adds, seen as unholy and idolatrous. Hence, it compares and contrasts being defiant with worshiping a false deity. This is due to the fact that, like Doug Weiss earlier in the discussion, you are a stubborn person who values his own perspective. Jonathan is forewarned of what is to come as Johnny accuses him of making an idol out of his opinions. God wouldn't be happy with this, explains Johnny, and you've opened yourself to demonic activity in your family and with your kids by your rebellion against me, he adds. Jonathan and Susie insist it's a form of resistance. You'll bring a curse upon you and your kids, Joni says at one point during the meeting. As proof, they point to the sex abuse accusations from 2021 and Susie's emotional acting. This shows that Susie's ideas aren't very consistent. Despite my best intentions, I will not confide in a family member about this matter because I know they would not approve. Joni tells Evans that our family went through a terrible thing. Even though Susie and Jonathan were aware that someone was acting inappropriately, she drove that item for a long time. Here, too, the same holds true. 15 minutes down the road, Joni and Susie's feud concerning Susie's resistance to reading the viewer comment, if I'm not comfortable, then I have to stick with my convictions, achieves its peak. Susie informs Joni, take a neutral stance on the matter. Joni tells Susie that it's fine to read positive feedback that a viewer has for anybody, not just her. It has nothing to do with her. Connected to you as you read a viewer's comment, I'm going to tell you a falsehood. Susie tells you that you don't matter. According to Joni, I'm reading it not dishonest. According to Susie, yes, it is correct. According to Joni, if I say something I don't believe, it's a lie. You are completely irrelevant, Susie clarifies. That is a viewer comment. That's not a Susie comment. It's a comment from a spectator. I can't go against my beliefs. Susie says, Joni says I shouldn't return. If you can't find anything good to say about Doug, you're fired. Jody says, I would prefer that you not be here. Avoid the green room at all costs. You won't be involved with the Jonathan and Susie Dare show after Susie's dismissal. Joni and Jimmy keep pressing Jonathan to confirm that he is willing to rescind the message. In his request, Jonathan urges Joni to comply. Your promise to comply is all I need. If you ask Joni, it's over. More beyond that, I am not interested in. I am not interested in learning about your opinions. Jonathan claims he will comply with Joni's demands, but Evans questions whether this means he will read the comment today. After a lengthy silence, Evans finally adds, see, now you're in trouble with her. After Susie objects to being called a bad guy, Joni reassures her that she is. Susie, my darling, you are well aware that you have him completely captivated. I find them quite disturbing. Jonathan, according to Susie, has bad ideas. I have you completely cornered with that kind of language. Keep staring at him. I look downcast at him as if you were scolding him. According to Joni, everything that is happening is absolutely terrible. What's evil is not the other person or their spirit. But you, Johnny says, no, what's evil is you, Susie adds gently. Jonathan is left alone with his mother as Susie exits the conference room at the end of the meeting. Jonathan and Susie Lamb, who were vice presidents at one point, assert that while they were Daystar students, spiritually abusive and harassed them on multiple occasions by Jonathan's mother, former President Joanie Lamb, and her associates. Joni allegedly shocked the couple by setting up a meeting with exam marriage creator Jimmy Evans on July 11, 2023. On camera, Evans informed Jonathan and Susie that they had to denounce Roy to their mother because Janie had told her son that his wife had him by the balls, which led him to believe that God wanted him to speak for himself. Jonathan prayed to hear the voice of God. The voice of God was heard by Evan, and he answered. So I have to hear from her. I cannot hear from God outside Dare. Jonathan continued to inquire. He responds, What she says is, God and Dare, this is the voice of God and Daystar's previously documented. Jonathan convened a contentious meeting 2 years after learning of a family member's sexual involvement with his daughter, in which he accused the person of abusing the youngster. Jonathan and Susie assert that their family member was swiftly defended and declared innocent by Joni and her late husband, Daystar co-founder Marcus Lamb. The outcome was a severe schism inside the family. It wasn't until late August 2021 that Marcus finally broke the news to Jonathan and his brother-in-law, Jonathan J.D. Weiss, that the family member had been cleared internally. After Jonathan and Susie found out the study was faulty, Marcus died suddenly in November 2021 of complications associated to COVID-19. When she is ready to talk about this again in 18 months, she will let Jonathan know. After what Jonathan and Susie say became an escalation of Dare's threats and insults, Dare fired Jonathan on November 16th, 2024. What happened in those 18 months will be further detailed in the story that follows. Daystar reached out to Tra, who asked them pointed questions about the story. According to Daystar, Joni is expected to make a formal statement released this afternoon. After his father passed away, Jonathan was not named future president of Daystar, and Joni accuses him of launching a smear campaign due to this. Joni accuses Jonathan of trying to blackmail her into becoming Daystar's future president and reveals parts of an email he sent. While it is our hope that this incident may be put behind us, ALs also need openness about their security measures. Joni, Daystar, and I are proposing that we enter into a new agreement that specifies my responsibilities as president of Daystar going forward and prohibits Joni or any other director or officer from doing anything that could hurt our careers without a very solid reason and the consent of the majority of the board of directors. With this, we can get closer to our aim of knowing exactly what our future holds at Daystar. If Daystar, Joni, or our family are the targets of any degrading or harmful audio recordings, Jonathan and Susie promise not to use, distribute, or make public such recordings in return for this agreement. The couple's decision not to disclose audio recordings was not an act of blackmail, but rather a response to the 13 requirements laid out by Dare for their reinstatement to their previous position at Daystar, requesting that they both agree to the deletion of any and all recordings of their meetings with Joni and Jimmy Evans, as well as any recordings of Joni's private conversations with Susie and Joni about their reluctance to read aloud on air. Jonathan clarified that he was not trying to suggest that Daystar should assume the presidency in the event that his mother Joni retired or died. Rather, he was outlining the plan that his father had suggested. However, Jonathan and Susie pointed out that these discussions occurred prior to Denise Boggs informing them that a family member had been cleared of child abuse on November 18, 2023. According to the Coops, by that point, they had stopped caring about their jobs and were simply seeking justice.